All right, you've dialed in, so let's get right to it.
Let's do it.
Stargate SG-1, right? That rush when the gate starts spinning.
Oh, yeah. Unmistakable.
We're going there. We're cracking open the Stargate SG-1 role-playing game from Wyvern Gaming.
Yep, that's the one.
You want to know if this thing, actually lets you live out your own SG team adventures.
That's the core question, isn't it? Does it capture the magic?
So let's jump in. Time to see if we should send in the MLLP on this one.
Well, what's really compelling, like right out of the gate, pun definitely intended,
Nice.
is taking a universe with all that established lore, all that history.
Decades of it.
Exactly, and giving you, the player, a way to actually actively participate.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who's ever, watched the show and thought, man, I wish I could join the SGC.
Which is probably everyone listening.
Probably. This is basically your shot.
Totally. Now, okay, for maybe some folks who are a bit newer to tabletop RPGs.
Good point. Let's break it down.
Picture this. Remember playing with, I don't know, your G.I. Joe figures back in the day? Transformers.
Oh, absolutely. Setting up huge battles on the living room carpet.
Right. You made up the stories, didn't you? Good guys versus Cobra or Decepticons.
Yeah, total improvisation.
A tabletop RPG is kind of like that, but you've got a rule book, gives things some structure.
And dice. Can't forget the dice.
Oh, yeah, the dice. Throws in those wild cards, the unexpected twists.
Keeps things interesting.
So you and your friends, you're the team. And one person, the Gate Master GM, for short.
Like the director or maybe the mission commander?
Yeah. Think of them as your very own Colonel O'Neill giving the mission briefing. They guide the story.
Sets the scene, presents the challenges.
And you say what your characters do. The adventure unfolds based on your choices, your ideas.
It's all collaborative storytelling, really. Everyone building the narrative together.
Exactly. And sometimes, you might sketch out a quick map if you're exploring an alien temple.
Especially if you think some Jaffa might be patrolling nearby. Serpent Guard.
Yeah, definitely helps visualize where those snakeheads might be lurking.
And if we think about why that's so engaging, it's about stepping into that world.
Right. Not just watching it.
In a way that just watching, well, it never really allows, does it?
No way.
And the clever move Wyvern Gaming made here is how they position the players.
Okay, yeah, tell us about that.
You aren't trying to be the spitting image of Daniel Jackson or Sam Carter.
So you're not playing them?
Nope. Instead, you're part of the Phoenix site.
Phoenix site? What's that?
It's a separate Stargate operation, a whole other base, also fighting the Goa'uld, exploring the galaxy.
Oh, that's smart.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's genius. Because you get to forge your own path, right?
Yeah.
Create your own heroes.
Exactly. Without messing up the established Stargate history, the canon everyone knows.
So you're still in the same galaxy, facing down Goa'uld, maybe Wraith later on.
Same threats, same
Yeah.
universe. But it's your team, your decisions, your consequences.
Brilliant. And it sounds like they're keeping things fresh, too, with that Stargate Phoenix series.
Yeah, the Living RPG series. It's basically ongoing adventures, new missions released regularly.
Like getting new episodes dropped, but for your game table? Keeps it alive?
Precisely. Constant fuel for new stories.
Okay, so how do you even do that? Take a massive TV universe like Stargate and, squish it into a rule book.
Well, Wyvern Gaming's answer was to build it on a familiar foundation.
Which is?
Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the 5e OGL specifically.
Ah, okay. So that D20 system. Roll a 20-sided die, add some bonuses.
Yeah, the one tons of people are already using for their fantasy campaigns. Dragons, dungeons, all that.
So if you've played 5e, you'll probably feel kind of at home here.
Definitely. The core mechanics, ability checks, saving throws, attack rolls, they'll feel pretty familiar. It really lowers the barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's like, okay, maybe like picking up a Laserdisc player when you're used to vinyl records.
Huh. Okay, I like that analogy.
The underlying tech, the goal is similar, but the specifics are different.
Exactly. And that's key. Don't get it twisted. This isn't just a quick paint job on D&D.
Right, it's not just fantasy with P90 slapped on.
Not at all. This is where it gets really interesting because they've actually made some significant adaptations, tweaks specifically for a modern sci-fi setting.
To make it actually feel like Stargate.
That's a goal, capturing that specific vibe.
Okay, so what are some of these key changes? How does it feel different?
Well, a big one is character progression, how your character gets better over time.
Right, leveling up.
You start by picking one of 6 starting classes, things that fit the setting, scientist, scout, diplomat.
Makes sense. The core archetypes you'd see at the SGC.
Precisely. And you level up in that class, but only up to level 5.
Only 5 levels. That seems low for 5e.
It is, initially. Because after level 5, things change. It opens up.
How so?
They call it classless leveling, or maybe more accurately, cross-training.
Cross-train. Okay,
Yeah.
intriguing. Like military cross-training.
Kind of. Instead of picking another class level, you choose from this big list of abilities, feats, essentially.
Oh, interesting. So like a buffet of skills you can pick and choose from?
Exactly. A really broad list. It lets you customize your character way beyond that initial class.
Okay, I see where this is going. That sounds actually very Stargate-y.
Right. Think about the SG-1 team. They weren't just one thing.
No way. Carter was a brilliant scientist and tough in a fight.
And Daniel could decipher ancient languages, but also, occasionally handled himself in action sequences.
Totally. He learned a thing or two. So this system lets you build that kind of versatility.
That's the idea. That well-rounded operative who can handle different situations.
Like Han Solo, maybe? Pilot smuggler, decent shot?
Yeah, that's a great parallel. You need that adaptability in this kind of setting. You can't just be the tank or the healer.
You got to wear multiple hats.
You really do. And speaking of handling different situations, they've got a really neat mechanic for social encounters.
Oh, beyond just like rolling persuasion.
Way beyond. It's called Moxie.
Moxie. Okay, break that down. What does Moxie do?
So Moxie is basically a stat that determines turn order, but for social situations.
Social initiative.
Pretty much. Think about a tense negotiation with some new alien race, or trying to fast-talk your way past a Jaffa patrol.
Okay.
Moxie decides who gets to speak when, who takes the lead in steering that conversation.
Huh. So it adds like a tactical layer to talking.
Exactly. It gives structure to it. And it lets those characters build for social interaction, the diplomats, the smooth talkers.
The Daniel Jacksons of the group.
Precisely. It lets them really shine and take control of the situation, just like Daniel often tried to reason with people before the P90s came out.
That's actually really cool. It acknowledges that talking is just as important as fighting in Stargate.
Absolutely. It gives players who invest in those social skills a real mechanical way to influence the story through dialogue, not just lucky rolls. Reflects the show's emphasis on diplomacy, research, talking things through first.
Okay, cool. What else? Any other big mechanics?
Then you've got determination points. DP.
DP. Sounds like hero points or inspiration in other games.
Very similar concept, yeah. It's a resource you can spend for those clutch moments.
The moments where the team is totally cornered, everything looks bleak.
And then someone pulls off something amazing, improbable even.
Yeah. Against all odds.
DP lets you do that. You can spend it to, say, re-roll the die that you flubbed.
Always useful.
Or maybe power a special class ability at a key moment. Or even just kind of nudge the narrative slightly in your favor. Create that heroic beat.
Like hitting the continue button in an old arcade game right before you lose your last life.
Yeah, a bit like that. It gives players that little bit of agency to create those signature Stargate moments of, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat.
Injecting a bit of plot armor when you really need it.
You could say that. It gives you that extra oomph when the odds seem stacked against you, just like SG-1 always seemed to find some way out.
Okay, I like that. Gives players control over those high points. Now, Stargate wasn't all talk and luck, right? There was plenty of action.
No, definitely. And the RPG accounts for that with specialized rules beyond just standard 5e combat.
Like what?
Well, specific rules for firefights. Capturing that feel of trading shots with Jaffa down a corridor.
The sound of the P90s versus the staff weapons? Iconic.
Totally. But also rules for pursuits, escaping capture, chasing someone down.
Running from a death glider.
Exactly. And even rules for research and development.
Ah, the Sam Carter special. Figuring out alien tech.
Yep. Making discovery and invention a core part of the game loop. And of course, those tense, convincing scenarios we talked about using Moxie.
So it's trying to make different kinds of challenges feel mechanically distinct.
That's the aim. Reflecting the variety of the show's episodes. They weren't just fighting all the time.
No, they were exploring, negotiating, running, hiding, figuring stuff out.
All of that.
Yeah.
So these different encounter rules try to bring that same diversity to the table, make each mission type feel unique.
Okay, but when the blaster bolts do start flying, how does combat feel? You mentioned it uses 5e as a base.
It does. So you'll see familiar things like armor class, AC, and hit points, HP.
Right. Now, okay, let's be real. There's always been some discussion about HP in sci-fi games using 5e.
The hit point problem.
Yeah. Does it really make sense for a character to have, like, 50 hit points and take multiple blasts from a futuristic energy weapon? It feels different than shrugging off sword hits.
It's a valid point, and definitely conversation within the TTRPG community about adapting 5e for sci-fi or modern settings. Does HP represent physical toughness, luck, stamina?
How does this game handle it? Is it super lethal or more heroic?
It seems to lean more towards the heroic side, like 5e generally does, but what I think the game encourages, much like the show,
Yeah.
is not always going for the direct firefight, thinking strategically.
The SG-1 way. Don't just charge in like Rambo.
Exactly. Use your brains, use the environment, use your knowledge of the enemy's tech against them.
Like figuring out how to overload a gold shield generator or something.
Precisely. The game seems structured to reward clever solutions and teamwork over just raw damage output, which feels very true to SG-1.
Okay, that makes sense. Prioritize smarts. So if I want to build my own operative, my own SG team member, what are my options?
Quite a few, actually. First, you've got races.
Okay, humans, obviously.
Humans, yeah. From Earth, or maybe Tauri from another world settled long ago.
Cool. Who else?
You can play as a Jaffa.
Oh, nice. Free from the gold, I assume.
Yep, Rebel Jaffa. You can play as a Takra.
A symbiote in a willing host.
Hmm.
Interesting role-playing potential there.
Definitely. And there's a game-specific race called the Octaren.
Otteran. Never heard of them.
No, they're new. Created for the RPG. Add some fresh mystery to the setting.
Okay, so race. Then what?
Then you choose an origin. This adds background, flavor, motivation. Why did your character join the Stargate program? Or the Jaffa Rebellion? Or the Takra Resistance?
Gotcha. Adds that personal story element.
Yeah. Then you pick one of those 6 starting classes we mentioned. Scientist, scout, diplomat, soldier, engineer, medic, I think. Tailored for sci-fi roles.
Right, laying the groundwork before the cross-training kicks in.
Exactly. And then the gear.
Oh, yeah. The fun part.
Totally. Outfitting your character.
Yeah.
P90s, Zatnik tells, staff weapons, maybe even a Gowald ribbon device if you can acquire one.
That's just pure fan wish fulfillment right there.
It really is. Plus, there's this neat idea of managing tech levels.
Tech levels. How does that work?
Basically, different planets have different levels of technology. Your Earth gear might be super advanced on one world, but primitive on another.
Ah, so you have to think about what gear will even work when you step through the gate.
Yeah, adds a layer of strategic planning to your loadout. You can't just assume your fancy scanner will work everywhere.
It's like trying to use your, I don't know, your Walkman on a planet that only has crystal-based radio.
Something like that. It encourages thinking about the environment.
I like that. Add some grit. So, okay, summing up, the big question. Dial the gate for this RPG. Or stay put. Is it worth it?
Well, here's how I see it. If you are a Stargate fan,
Sure.
and you generally enjoy tabletop RPGs, especially the kind of collaborative storytelling and tactical thinking they involve,
Okay.
and you're at least okay with, or maybe even like the D&D 5e system,
Yeah.
then I think this is a really solid bet. It's got the official license, official support.
Which is nice, not just a fan project.
Right, there's that ongoing living campaign, so there's a stream of adventures.
Yeah.
The 5e base makes it pretty easy to pick up if you know D&D.
Lower learning curve.
And those tweaks, we talked about the Moxie for social stuff, the specialized encounters, the cross-training. They seem genuinely designed to capture the feel of the show.
Prioritizing story and problem solving over just combat grinding.
Exactly. Feels very SG-1 in spirit.
Okay, but who wouldn't this be for?
Fair question. Well, obviously, if you just fundamentally dislike the 5e system,
Do you think HP are dumb for sci-fi? Maybe.
yeah, if you find its mechanics clunky or just not to your taste, this adaptation, however good, probably won't win you over. It's still built on that chassis.
Makes sense.
Also, if you're looking for like super deep, gritty, hyper-realistic sci-fi simulation,
Calculating fuel burn and radiation exposure?
yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A game like Traveler might be a better fit. It's known for that level of detail.
Okay. Different focus.
Or if you want really fast, furious, almost over-the-top cinematic action, maybe something like Savage Worlds would be more your speed. It excels at that pulpy feel.
Right, more focused on big, quick action scenes.
And then for players who really love deep, complex, highly tactical combat with tons of character build options and feats,
Min-maxers, the optimizers.
yeah, games like Pathfinder, or maybe its sci-fi cousin Starfinder, might scratch that itch better. They offer incredible depth in combat tactics and character customization.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job, the right system for the kind of Stargate game you want to play.
Precisely. There's always a balancing act when you adapt a system like 5e, originally designed for fantasy, into a different genre like sci-fi. Some folks might find certain elements still feel a bit, well, fantasy-derived.
Right, it's kind of like deciding if the special effects in the original Star Wars trilogy hold up against modern CGI.
That's a good way to put it.
They both offer something amazing, right?
Right.
But the experience, the feel, it's definitely different. This Stargate RPG using 5e is going to have its own specific flavor.
It will. But based on what's there, Wyvern Gaming seems to have put together a really commendable, respectable adaptation. It does a genuinely solid job capturing that Stargate SG-1 energy.
So the takeaway is, consider what you want from a Stargate RPG experience.
Yeah. If the accessibility of 5e, combined with that official Stargate seal of approval and the focus on the show's themes, sounds good to you.
Then it's probably worth checking out.
Definitely worth investigating further, I'd say.
All right, so bottom line.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard that whoosh and the ka-chunk of the chevrons locking in your head.
We all have.
If you've ever dreamed of stepping through that shimmering event horizon onto an unknown alien world, Wyvern Gaming's Stargate SG-1 RPG looks like a really cool, officially supported way to make that happen.
A chance to lead your own mission.
Yeah, so think about it.
Yeah.
What kind of FG team would you put together? Who's your scientist, your soldier, your diplomat, your archaeologist?
What mysteries would you chase down first? What unexplored planets call to you?
And just what corner of that vast Stargate galaxy would you want to explore first? That's your next mission brief, listeners, should you choose to accept it.